Good morning. Today we are going to talk about aligning and what most people want to know, which is how to align things centering horizontally and vertically. All right, so I've written an example for this, but let's talk quickly about how we align stuff. So if I just want to align an element, like a div or any element, an aside, a section, a main, the magic command is margin auto. So I've created a class in the HTML example that I'm about to show you that has the magic tag margin :auto semicolon, but I've also set a width of 50% so that it doesn't stretch out all the way to the edges. So let's take a look at how that works. So here I am in brackets. So as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 divs, and I'm going to go through each one. This one is tied to a class called center. So the element, not the text, is centered vertically and horizontally within the box. So let's take a look at that example. Okay, so here's that element, and as you can see, it is centered vertically within the box and vertically in the web page. So margin of auto gives you alignment of center for anything, which is nice. Now notice my text is not centered. So I've written another class. Let's look at the class for that again. So my class of center, the magic command margin :auto, and you can see there's my width of 50%, and so that I can see it, I gave it a background color and some padding, which is extra. Watch what happens when I take away the width tag. The element is centered, but it stretches all the way to the edges. So maybe I want that, maybe I don't. So I'm going to undo that and give myself a width of 50%. So either if you want it to cover 100%, then just don't create a width. And I decided I wanted mine to be width 50%. Okay, so one more step. I want the text to be centered within the box. Okay, so for that, let's take a look at my HTML, and I tied that to a div class called center text. So I'm centering the text within the box. So let's take a look at the CSS for that. So .center text just adds one more thing, text align center. So again, we have a width of 50%, which I can have or not. I have the magic command margin :auto, and I have the other magic command text align center. So we're just adding one more feature. The text align center will center the text within the box, and I have the text centered, and I have the div centered. Yay! Okay, so next up, I'm going to center an image. So let's look at the HTML for that. I wrote another class for that. So as you can see, I have the Greenville University logo. It's a bit stretched, so I should probably fix that. So I have a width of 400 and a height of 200, and since it's a bit stretched, I'm going to take the width down to, I'm being a perfectionist here, I'm just going to take the width down to 180. Okay, should I have sized this in Photoshop before? Heck yeah, I should have. Actually, excuse me, I'm going to take the height down. Hey, look, that's some extra credit points for you. Because this is a mistake on my part. All right, let's take the width down to 380 and see how that works for me. Better. Width down to 360. Better still. Width down to 340. Better still. But I really should have sized that baby in Photoshop. So you can, that's an extra credit. You got probably 2 extra credit points if you watched this video. All right, so it's actually still a little bit stretched. All right, so, but let's take a look at the CSS. So I have an image within a div, and let's take a look at the CSS for that. And I'm just redefining the image element. So remember, if I was to really do this, every image on my entire website would be centered. All right, so here's the magic code for that. Display block. We set the margin left and right to auto. and we set display to block. Okay, let's look at the other options for display. Display block, flex, we're going to talk about that later. Display inline, inline block, inline flex, and inline grid. We're going to cover all those later, but so our display of block, semicolon, allows us to center the image, and if we set the margin left and right to auto, we get a centered image within a div. Let's just for fun look at display of something else. So we'll look at display of inline. And notice it does not center. Let's look at display of inline block. Remember, we used display of inline block to force our menu to display block style squished into a div so that it would be horizontal. Now, let's use the magic command, display block, which centers it. Easy. Okay, so every image, I could have written a class for this, but I didn't. So every image would be centered in this scenario. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't. It's up to you. I decided to write it this way so I could show you the difference. Okay, so let's go back to our HTML and let's look at this text. Uses padding and text align center to center the text both horizontally and vertically within a box that is also centered. Now this one I did not set a width for, so you can see it goes all the way across. All right, so let's look at the CSS for that. So I tied this to a class called both. I used padding of 40 pixels. And that's a lot of padding. I'm going to change it to 20 pixels just for fun. And you can see that it becomes a smaller box. Gave it a background color so you can see it. And I'm just using text align of center. So I could also give it a width of 50% so it would match everything else. And I need to put in my margin of auto. Ta-da! So if I want both, margin of auto, remember, is the magic command to center your element, your div or whatever. Width gives me a flexible width. Text align center centers the text within the box, and padding and background color are just there to help me see it better. So here's my final result. Cool, huh? And let's see how that works in terms of responsive design. So as you can see, my image is responsive. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, responsive images. And my elements, my divs, are also responsive. So they're always 50% of the box width. Okay, well that was easy. Easy stuff, right? And that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it.